welcome Kevin, Debbie, and Lucas back with us this morning. Tell everybody I may be old and slow, but I make up for it by being old and slow.
The math doesn't work out.
You learn to use wisdom. You slow down. It's like I was a ship lieutenant and I was old, right? Late 40s, early 50s, and you don't run like you did when you were 21. I remember being over in a section of town there. It was kind of rough. And we were dealing with something because of some kind of disturbance, and there was a guy in the crowd that my guys looked at and said, "We got to work with him." So they began to approach him. He took off, running like a rabbit, right? Out behind the house, down into the field, and run across the field. So they all take off after him. I didn't run that way. I ran to the car. I get in my car and I'm driving down the road and I'm watching them run. I just over the curb down through the opening, and now I'm chasing him in my car. He's looking back and he's running. And he's already run 100 yards. Now I'm right on him. He goes between the houses. I drive right between the houses. Get in the parking lot. He goes down the hill, and that's when I start to jump out. I start to run. After he's already winded, right? And he was down the edge of the woods, and he looks back at me, and he just stopped dead in his tracks. And I jumped out of the car, and I bounded through some briars, and he looked back, and he just waited on me, and I got down, and I put him down, handcuffed him. He said, "I looked back at you, and I saw you run through them briars," and I said, "I might as well give up." So I didn't have to run but about 25 yards, and so when you're old, you learn to be a little wiser. Not be like a beagle, just take off after
Titanic went too fast, we know how that turned back up.
Huh?
Titanic went too fast, we know how that turned back
Yeah. Yeah. No, another time we had a call. This is all extra, by the way. You didn't have to pay for any of this. Got a call, disturbance guy beating on his girlfriend. Guys get there. Guy runs, hops a fence down in the woods out of this little housing project. So they're out there chasing around. They're on the radio. "Hey, he's going here. He's going there." So I began to talk to people in the crowd. I said, "Where would he go? If he was to run to somebody?" He was an escapee from Anderson County Jail. He had escaped, and that's why he ran automatically from us. I said, "Where would he go?" And he said, "Well, his old girlfriend lives over at 101 apartment." So I took my car and I drove out of the apartment complex, pulled down the road a little bit, off the road into the dark, and then I walked over, and I'm standing, the door's like right there, and I'm standing underneath the dark steering wheel. I'm just standing there. So I look and I see my guys leave. They get in the cars and they're leaving. We're 10-8, can't find him, he's gone. I'm waiting, I just wait. About 5 minutes later, "He's back at the apartment again. He's fighting again." Here they come. Whoosh, whoosh. Patrol cars. Whoosh. "Oh, he's out. He's running. He's running around. He's running around here, running around. And he goes whoosh, right by me and goes bam, bam, bam on that door. I just stepped out and I had pepper spray in my hand. And I went, "Tommy." He looked around and went whoosh. Hosed him down in the face with pepper spray. You can't run when your eyes are full of pepper spray. I said,
Yeah, but
"Doesn't hurt me." "No, I think it's sprayed with it."
it doesn't like get in the air around him.
No, it's a jet spray. It's like a stream. And I crossed his face right there, went whoosh, whoosh. Right across his forehead and his eyes and his mouth. Over. Said, "Turn around, give me your hands, handcuff me." I went, "Car 9, I'm over here at 101. Come on over here, I got him." They come running up. "How did you catch him?" I said, "You got to learn that every rabbit has a hole. And you just got to be waiting at the hole." And I didn't run anywhere. It's that old and slow stuff. You got to make up for it by being old and slow. That's funny. "Hey, how'd you catch him?" I said, "Nothing to it."
When you retired, did you say something like, "And I only ran 2 miles the whole time"?
Oh, Oh, now, when I was younger, I was running just like them, but I was catching them because I could keep up.
Yeah.
I was past the days of keeping up now. You gotta use your kidneys, you know. Anyway, okay, that was all for free. That didn't come with a ticket. That's extra.
Open for yourself.
Huh?
You're the opener. For
Yeah.
yourself.
You want to know about old and slow, being old and slow. That's how you handle it when you're old and slow. Anyway, this morning we are continuing our series on the prophet in you, and we have arrived at the New Testament. We've completed pretty much the Old Testament except for a few women still. No? No? Okay. This has been well over a year that we've been doing this. And we're going to close it out because this is the last prophet of the Old Testament. Anybody tell me who that is? The last prophet of the Old Covenant. Anybody want to take a stab at it? It's a trick question.
Except on the Baptist.
It is. That's it. He's the last prophet of the Old Covenant. Jesus hadn't been sacrificed yet. See, most people think of the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John as being the New Testament. It's still under the Old Covenant. All the way until the end, until Christ is sacrificed. Then it's the New Covenant.
Right.
So all the time he's talking to all these Jews and everything, and sometimes we have to sort it out, is because he's speaking to them concerning the law or the Old Covenant. And so as Christians, a lot of times we have to kind of sort through that a little bit to see how does that, what he's saying, apply to us. There's the conflict over divorce. And Jesus said, if you remarry, you're committing adultery. Well, who was Jesus talking to? He was talking to the Jews under the law. Paul later said, if your spouse wants to depart because of your faith or because of infidelity, you can divorce. So who's right? Both of them. One's under the Old Covenant, one's under the New. Paul clarified that. Those two exemptions. And some of the legalist groups, if you're a divorced person, you're like a pariah. You can sit back there, you can listen to the message, you can pay your tithes, but you can't teach, you can't be involved in ministry anyway because you're a divorcee. If that was a sin, does Jesus' blood cover it? Is Jesus' blood thick enough to cover that sin? If it was, well, of course. So it's just, Okay. So John the Baptist is who we're going to talk about today. And it's an interesting story, especially what we're talking about right now at this time of year. Is when he was conceived and when he was born. And what relationship did that have with when Jesus was born? So we're going to go to Luke 1, starting in verse 5. There was in the days of Herod, the king of Judea, a certain priest named Zacharias, of the division of Abijah. His wife was of the daughters of Aaron, and her name was Elizabeth. So we definitely have a priestly family. Both father and mother were of the priestly line. And they were both righteous before God. That's another. They were sons of the priest, daughters of the priest, and they were righteous before God. That means they were obeying the law to the best of their ability. Walking in all the commandments and ordinances of the Lord blameless. That's pretty stout for back then. But they had no child because Elizabeth was barren, and they both were well advanced in years. Does being well advanced in years mean anything to God?
No.
I think he proved that with Abraham and Sarah, right? They were well advanced in years, like close to 100. And he livened them up. So it was that while he was serving as priest before God in the order of his division, according to the custom of the priesthood, his lot fell to burn incense when he went into the temple of the Lord, and the whole multitude of the people was praying outside at the hour of incense. So his lot fell. What does that mean? That means he was chosen. When they drew lots, his name came out of the hat. And you know how we looked about how they drew lots when they chose, was it Matthias? Who was it that was chosen as a disciple to replace Judas? Matthias, I believe. How they drew lots. And you know, when Joshua went into the promised land, they drew lots to see who was going to get what part of the land. And we thought about, you know, how did this work? How could you be, you know, I did that little mini lesson about, you know, why is the lottery called the lottery? Because it's like drawing lots. What do we call a parcel of land that's for sale? A lot. That goes all the way back to Joshua sorting out the land. They drew lots. This was a common practice. And we actually conducted an exercise here that blew my head off. Remember that? We came in here, listen to this, Kevin. We came in here and God told Myra to bring in a couple pair of dice. So we were going to roll dice to see who was going to teach that morning. And so we rolled the dice, and we each rolled a 7. I think I was 5-2 and you were 4-3. Okay, we both rolled a 7. So we thought, well, that's strange. We rolled again. We both rolled a 7. Again. This time, it was 5-2 for you and 4-3 for me. Next time we rolled, I said, okay, it looks like we're both supposed to teach. I said, whoever goes first, whoever gets the lowest number will go first. She rolls a third 7 in a row. She went, maybe it was 6-1, 5-2, 4-3. I was 6-1, 5-2. And when it said up roll the lowest, I rolled 2-1, snake eyes. The lowest number you can get in dice. And what are the mathematical odds of that? She went 3 7s, I went 7-7, snake eyes, to see who's going to go first. I was like flabbergasted the way that went. I said, that's obviously how it went. God would lead and guide and direct by how, you know, when they threw Jonah overboard, they drew lots to find out who it was that was the wrong person. So it was a tool that God used and gave guidance through it. It worked here that morning. It blew me away. Wow.
So supernatural.
Yeah, it was like, whoa. Yeah.
No, it was just a one-time.
Yeah. We just did that because
As an illustration.
the Holy Spirit, as an illustration, you know, led you to do that morning. It was like, wow. Okay. So he was chosen through lots. Going on to verse 11. Then the angel of the Lord appeared to him, standing on the right side of the altar of incense. And when Zechariah saw him, he was troubled, and fear fell upon him. But the angel said to him, do not be afraid, Zacharias, for your prayer is heard, and your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you shall call his name John. And you will have joy and gladness, and many will rejoice at his birth. For he will be great in the sight of the Lord, and shall drink neither wine nor strong drink. He will also be filled with the Holy Spirit, even from his mother's womb. Filled with the Holy Spirit even before he was born. And he will turn many of the children of Israel to the Lord their God. He will also go before him in the spirit and the power of Elijah. He's going to walk in the strength and the power that Elijah did. Even Elijah wasn't filled with the Holy Spirit. He got it from time to time, as in the Old Testament we see, from time to time certain Holy Spirit would fall on certain individuals. But he's going to have the Holy Spirit just like we have it, have the availability of Holy Spirit. To turn the hearts of the fathers to the children and the disobedient to the wisdom of the just, to make ready a people prepared for the Lord. He's got a big job to do. Big job. But now Zechariah in his fear, in verse 18 it says, and Zechariah said to the angel, how shall I know this? For I am an old man, and my wife is well advanced in years. And the angel answered and said to him, I am Gabriel. Whoa. We're talking about God's messenger angel, Gabriel. The main one that brought all the news most of the time is Gabriel. That's one of the things I fussed about when I was in Bible college. And you talked about how you, when you're studying the Bible, you have hermeneutics and hermeneutics and exegesis. Exegesis is studying what does it mean when you study the Old Testament. What did it mean to those people at that time? And hermeneutics means, well, how does that apply to me today? And when I looked up hermeneutics, it's based on the Greek god Hermes, who was the messenger of the gods. And I think, why in the world are we calling this hermeneutics? It should be Gabriel-neutics. I said that in class. I said, this is wrong. We shouldn't be using Hermes. It's Gabriel-neutics. It's because he was the messenger angel. And I wonder if Zacharias went into vapor lock when he said that. I'm Gabriel, who stands in the presence of God and was sent to speak to you and bring these glad tidings. But behold, you will be mute and not able to speak until the day that these things take place, because you did not believe my words, which will be fulfilled in their own time. Now see, when we read about Gabriel coming to Mary, and she said, let it be to me according to your word, she had faith and believed it. She questioned it. You know, how is this going to happen? I don't know a man. But it wasn't out of unbelief. It was out of, how's this going to happen? I'm unmarried, I'm a virgin. That would shake me up. She had to put up with a whole lot because of this birth. Mary did. But he's doing it out of doubt and fear, see? And that's the difference. But these words, which will be fulfilled in their own time, it's going to happen, Zacharias, whether you have unbelief or not. Verse 21, and the people waited for Zacharias and marveled that he lingered so long in the temple. He just had to go in there and burn a little incense. What's taking so long? But when he came out, he could not speak to them, and they perceived that he had seen a vision in the temple, where he beckoned to them and remained speechless. That was probably, a pretty big sign of wonder when he wouldn't talk. So it was, as soon as the days of his service were completed, that he departed to his own house. And after those days, his wife Elizabeth conceived, and she hid herself 5 months, saying, thus the Lord has dealt with me in the days when he looked on me to take away my reproachable people. They see, they were old and barren, and she was just like Hannah, mother of Samuel. She had been a reproach because she couldn't bear any children. Elizabeth was in the same boat. And now she's going to get a son. And he's going to walk in some real power. So now we read in Luke 1, verse 36. The story is going to continue. And it's going to bring Mary into the situation here. Now indeed, Elizabeth, your relative, has also conceived a son in her old age. And this is now the 6th month for her who was called barren. For with God, nothing will be impossible. Then Mary said, behold, the maidservant of the Lord, let it be to me according to your word. And the angel departed from her. Those words, when she said, it just melts my heart to read that. She just said, let it be to me according to what you said. Let it be. So now, okay, it's Elizabeth's 6th month. And this is key to answer the question, when was Jesus born? So, in Luke 1:5 it says, in the days of Herod, king of Judah, there was a priest named Zechariah, the division of Abijah. That's a clue right there. He was the division of Abijah. All the priests were organized in groups. And they each had a specific time when it was their duty to go into the temple like Zechariah did to burn the incense. It just so happens, Luke 1:8-9, now while he was serving as priest before God, his division was on duty. According to the custom of the priesthood, he was chosen by lot to enter the temple of the Lord and burn incense, which we had just read. Okay, so it's his division, he's part of the priesthood, it's time for him to go in. So when is this? You go back to the Old Testament. 1 Chronicles 24:10. The 7th of Hakaz, the 8th of Abijah. Priests of Abijah went into the temple between the 12th and the 18th of Sivan on the Jewish calendar. And that just happens to fall around the first week of June on our calendar every year. Okay? So, he went into the temple in the first week of June. He gets the word, hey, you're going to have a son. He's going to be all this. It's going to happen whether you believe it or not, whether you have faith for it or not. And you'll get to be quiet for 9 months while you're waiting for it. So, if Zechariah leaves and goes home and gets busy with Elizabeth, and let's say she gets conceived around the 25th of June, towards the end of the month, in a few weeks, okay? If that happened, a normal pregnancy is 280 days. And if you go from June the 25th, 9 months, it lands on the Nisan the 15th, which just happens to be Passover. John the Baptist was born at Passover. Okay? Now, but here it says that Elizabeth's conceived and she's in her 6th month. So, this is when Mary conceived, when Elizabeth was 6 months alone. So you go from June, July, August, September, October, November, December. That means Jesus wasn't born on December 25th. He was conceived around December 25th. Okay? So you go 9 months forward from that. Where's that land you? September 25th. And it's September 1st, October, which is when the Feast of Tabernacles happens. Jesus was born at Feast of Tabernacles this time of year. Right now, as we sit here, 2,000 some odd years ago, this is about the time that Joseph was saddling up the donkey. They're getting ready to take off and go to Bethlehem right now, 2,000 years ago. See, it was a 2-week journey from Nazareth to Bethlehem. Nazareth is up north. It's on the edge of the Jezreel Valley where the Battle of Armageddon will take place. Bethlehem is on the south side of Jerusalem. And in those days, to make that trek was a 2-week hike. So right now is about the time, because Feast of Tabernacles is the first part of October this year. We're just less than about 3 weeks away from that right now. So this is about the time, and they got the word, and he's about ready to take off right now. So, see, this is God's time. What happens in December? What do the Jews celebrate in December when we're celebrating Christmas? Well, Hanukkah. Okay, do you know the story about Hanukkah? Okay. In the silent years between Nehemiah, chronologically, is the last book of the Old Testament. It's Malachi in our Bible, but chronologically, if you put them in time, Nehemiah's the last book, Matthew's the first. They're called the 400 silent years. In the middle of that, you can read all about it in the book of Maccabees. It tells the story of the Maccabees. Alexander the Great had come down and conquered Israel. Alexander the Great died, and these 4 generals took over all his empire. And the king at the time was telling Israel, this is around, I have to look it up, 150 something BC. You're going to abandon your religion. You're no longer going to do that. You're not going to circumcise your children. You're going to stop celebrating all your festivals. It's over. You're going to become like us, Hellenistic. You're going to follow our gods. He went in and slaughtered a pig in the altar in the temple. Put pig blood all over it. Now, how do Jews look about pigs? Well, they can't eat them. not allowed to eat any ham. Part of their kosher. To take a pig and slaughter it on the altar is absolute desecration. And that's what he did. He polluted the temple. Well, there's some good old Southern country boys out in the woods said, we ain't doing that. And they revolted. They sent their king's representative out there and one of the priests, come on now guys, y'all got to toe the line and come and get involved in this. And they proceeded to offer sacrifice on the altar, and the guy in charge, the head of the Maccabees, took a sword out and killed them both, tore down the altar and started a fight. Well, the Greeks came down with 10,000 soldiers, and a group of about 1,000 of them went out and whipped them, and they went running back to where they came from. And when you read the story, they came back the next time with about 60,000, next time with about over 100,000, came with elephants, 12 elephants. It was tanks of their day. 12 elephants. Each of them had a certain amount of cavalry assigned to them. Each of them had a certain amount of foot soldiers assigned to them. They came down and got whooped again. It's every bit as good and glorious as anything you want to read in the Old Testament. And they fought and whipped them all 3 times and put an end to it. Well, when they went in to cleanse the temple, they had a menorah there. They had enough oil in it to burn one day. And it takes 8 days for a priest to take oil and process it through everything they need to do to it before it is sanctified and certified as oil that can be burned in the menorah. Well, that one day's oil lasted 8 days. It's called the miracle of lights. And that's what Hanukkah means dedication. If you go to, it's in John chapter 10. It says Jesus went to Jerusalem for the dedication. And we, as Christians, you've read it, I'm sure you've read it at least once. But it goes right over your head because we're not Jews. We're Gentiles. Feast of dedication is Hanukkah. Jesus celebrated Hanukkah. Okay? All right? So it's called Celebration of Lights, the Miracle of Lights. And it happened in December. That's when they celebrated. Okay? Jesus is born at Tabernacles. So this is God's timing. The light of the world came to tabernacle with us. That's God's timing. Not December 25th. Son God Mithras' birthday. That's where that came from, which I talked about last week. So, Jesus was born. We're coming up on his birthday here in a couple, 2 or 3 weeks. His real birthday. If you want to celebrate it, that's when you want to do it. Okay. So, it says, now indeed Elizabeth's relative has... Think about this. The 2 main dudes that are getting born right now are coming out of the same family. How is it that happened? Why? John the Baptist could have been born from anybody else, right? No, they're cousins, basically. And we don't know the exact relationship between Elizabeth. It just says your relative. Nowhere does it say aunt or cousin or anything like that. But some people think maybe it was Mary's mother's sister or something like that. Anyway, it is a relative. But these 2 cats, these 2 main dudes, Jesus and John the Baptist, came out of the same family. Born 6 months apart. Both of them miraculous births. Both of them pretty potent. Potent children, what they get ready to do. You know? They impotent. Important. That's amazing to me. Now Mary arose in those days and went into the hill country with haste to a city of Judah, and entered the house of Zechariah and greeted Elizabeth. And it happened when Elizabeth heard the greeting of Mary that the babe leapt in her womb. Whoo! Y'all had your babies kick around in your womb before they were born? I imagine jumping up and down and doing jumping jacks, and you're going. And Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Spirit. She's Pentecostal all of a sudden. Then she spoke out with a loud voice. That means she didn't hold back or hesitate. She just let it rip. Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb. How'd she know that? Mary wouldn't have been obvious at that point. She just conceived. How could she possibly know that? But why is this granted to me, that the mother of my Lord should come to me? For indeed, as soon as the voice of your greeting sounded in my ears, the babe leaped in my womb for joy. Blessed is she who believed, for there will be a fulfillment of those things which were told her from the Lord. I believe you could call Elizabeth a prophet all of a sudden. She's telling her what you heard is going to happen. Elizabeth's prophetess, Myra. And you didn't even talk about her. She's a prophetess. She just turned into a prophet. Luke 1:57-80. Now Elizabeth's full time came for her to be delivered, and she brought forth a son. When her neighbors and relatives heard how the Lord had shown great mercy to her, they rejoiced with her. Remember, she's old. Great mercy, they said. So it was on the 8th day that they came to circumcise the child, that they would have called him by the name of his father. Okay, he's going to be called Zechariah, right? His mother answered and said, no, he shall be called John. And everybody in the room said, who do you think you are calling out the name of this boy? That's not your place. You don't have the authority to do this, you're just a woman. But they said to her, there's no one among your relatives who's called by this name. What are you doing? So they made signs to his father, asking him, hey, mute Zacharias, what's this boy's name? Verse 63, and he asked for a writing tablet and wrote, saying, his name is John. How does Zacharias know that? Angel told him the boy's name's going to be John. How did Elizabeth know it? I guess Zacharias might have written it out for her sometime. He couldn't tell her.
Put a note on the fridge.
Yeah, note on the fridge. His name's John. So they all marveled. Immediately his mouth was opened and his tongue loosed, and he spoke, praising God. Then fear came on all who dwelt around them. And all these things were discussed throughout all the hill country of Judea. And all those who heard kept them from them in their hearts, saying, what kind of child will this be? And the hand of the Lord was with him. Now, we're going to read how John goes out into the wilderness, and people come flocking from everywhere to come hear what he has to say. You think, how would that happen? Why would they go out? How'd they know he was out there? Why would they pay him any attention? Because they knew about his birth. He said it was all over Judea. They were all talking about him. All these people knew this baby was special, and they watched him grow up. So they knew that when he grew up, he probably might have something to say. So his whole birth was laying the groundwork for his ministry, because it was an attention getter. A mom who was old, having a baby boy that was filled with the Holy Spirit in the womb, and all the stuff wrapped